Okay, let's talk about culture. In this recording, I'm going to talk about the deception of similarity. We mentioned in recording 1 that a culture is like an iceberg. There are two parts. There's an observable part of the culture, which are usually words, action, and dress. And like an iceberg, that observable part is carried by a submerged part of the culture, which we call context. Now, we also said in recording 3 that the Arab context, and especially the Gulf area context, is dependent on two important factors, which are the Arab traditions and Islamic practices. And it's important for people who want to go work or live in that part of the world to gather information about these two factors. Now, a Westerner might say, well, I don't think it's important for me to gather that type of information because the country I'm going to, people have changed. They have become more westernized. The way they dress, their actions, the words, the city, the McDonald's, the cinemas, everything. It's more westernized. So I feel very comfortable there, and I don't think I need to gather that type of information at this present time because I don't need it. Now, this is where I think people deceive themselves because they assume that the context is similar. This is where we fall into a deception. If we see the observable part of a culture is similar, we assume that they come from a context that is similar. But what we don't know is that usually the value system and a lot of the contexts they change very slowly, and they're the last things to change. So what that means is that once you deal with a person of that culture in a subject that is important or crucial, or goes into the value system, or what is right and what is wrong, then you find that the observables change dramatically in a way that you could not have predicted based on your context. And so it is important that we gather this information irrespective of the similarity that we see. If that culture had maintained some differences in the observable, then a Westerner coming to that part of the world would categorize that culture as being different than his. And so he would assume that the context is different than his. So he would be more cautious in dealing with people. He would have gathered more information about that context, and then he would have been more prepared to deal with changes in the observable. Okay, this is the same when dealing with people of Arab origins who are living in the West. If they are dressed the same as Westerners, they act the same, they don't even have an accent, they will be treated by the same way as Westerners would treat each other. And this is fine most of the time, but once you hit a subject that is important, or if this is a value system or the worldview of that person, then the observables will be unpredictable by a Western context, and it will cause more confusion when dealing with that person. And so it is very important to gather information about the culture of the people that we are dealing with, although the observables might seem very similar. So I would like to end by saying that sometimes the ease, the comfort that we get from dealing with cultures or people who look similar might be deceiving, because on the long run, or when we hit important subjects, we get into confusion. We get confused on how do we deal with these people because we were unprepared. However, if we get uncomfortable in dealing with people who look different or cultures who are different, sometimes that little bit of discomfort is really good, because it helps us to prepare ourselves and to deal better with these people on the long run.